Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we will create the main store page, and by that I don't mean the front page, but the page where all products will be displayed. As you can see, I've already done all the HTML and CSS for a company called Indistinct Studios, and we will just have to add our products right here. We also don't have any functionality for the search and sort field here, but we will come to that soon. Also, if you like my content, maybe consider subscribing and liking this video to help me making more videos just like this one. But now let's go into PHP Storm, and I will quickly show you what I have done so far. It is quite a bit, but I won't explain everything. As I said, this is just some boilerplate code so that we can have something nice to look at and don't have to look at something ugly. So the only part we have to concentrate on is in the store, and I have called it all.php so that we have a path with store and /all. Later on we will create an htaccess file to delete this PHP tag at the end. So we can delete that one. What else? We have a head.php file where all of our HTML head stuff is happening, so all of our imports, the CSS file, some Cloudflare for font awesome stuff. So that is going on here. We have a footer that is this one out here. So I don't think I have to say anything for that. I shouldn't. And the index file itself in here is completely empty, just our PHP version we have from creating the project from the last video, and of course a CSS file. So when we come down here we can see that there is this product tag. I know there is much else going on, many div containers, a list, but that's just for styling. Of course you can take this as an approach to design your own styling, but we are just concentrated at this products tag, because this will be where we will append our products. So later on we will have in here some products. But first of all, we of course have to create our SQL table. So let's do that. In SQL, in PHP Storm, we just have to click on this database tab. I showed you this earlier. I think I don't have to explain anything here. And I like to do this with the query console. I had one open. Anyways, and then here we can create our SQL commands. So we will create a table called products, and then let's open not curly braces. I'm sorry. Also, if you might be wondering, I will do mistakes. Everyone does mistakes, and I will probably not cut them out because this video will be a bit longer and I don't have so much time to cut them. But we will need, for every product we will need an ID, and this will be an int and it will auto increment please, and it also will be the primary key of this table. Then let's go ahead and create a Gumroad ID. Every product on Gumroad has a specific ID. I think it's 5 random characters. Can also be numbers, I think, but we will also need that to get information about this product on Gumroad. And this will be tiny text, and this won't be null. It will be tiny text because it's not long, and it will also the maximum length of this is 5 characters, so we can just leave it at that. We'll also need a name, and this could be a text. We don't know how long this will be, but probably not as long. We will need a price. This will be an int, and everything else we will do after that. A description, and this also will be a text and not null. I think you may have seen that we don't want to have anything at null. We don't have any optional characters right here. Image link. The image link will be interesting because that's the link for the product image, but this will also be, it's interesting how we get that. we will have a little admin panel and do some web scraping. I think that's all, and we can just click this little run button right here and it should run. Complete it in there, and we have the products and we have our table. That's pretty good. So now we can close that off and we can actually start coding. The first thing we will need is a connection to the database. And this will be our first include file. We will create, or I will create, for my organization, I includes directory, and in there we will have all of our files that shouldn't be accessible to the public. So those are just files that communicate with the database and do stuff in the background. So let's create a new PHP file, and I will call this dbh.inc.php, so database handler, and in there we will write some code to communicate with our database. First thing we'll need, in here we'll store some variables about the database, and for example the password, username, so on, and then we'll create a connection so that we just have one file with all the credentials in there, and this just makes us less vulnerable. So we will have a variable called server name, and this will be equal in our case to localhost. You could also write 127.0.0.1 in there. That's the same, and we don't forget the semicolon. We will create a DB username, and we'll set that equal to whatever username you set for the password earlier when we created this. In my case it will be Leo, and then we will have DB password, and this will be equal to, in my case, remember this will be probably, hopefully different in your case. If you are using XAMPP, the default credentials will be root and just no password, so you can just leave it at that. And the DB name is the name of the database we created earlier. In PHP you can see right here that our name of the schema, so the database, is Webshop tutorial. So you could, for example, name your database whatever your website names is, for example. So then we will create a con variable, and this will have our connection, and for that we will use MySQL connect, and then we will pass all the variables created earlier. And we have the server name, database username, password, and the database name. I like autocomplete. And beneath here we will create a little if, and this is just a little error handler. So if we don't have a connection, we want to die, I also want to die, and we will print out connection failed, and just a little format. Remember, dots for appending strings, and we will print out the MySQL I connect error. That was a difficult sentence for me. And from now on we don't really need this file anymore, so we can close it off. Before we will actually start coding, I kind of want to explain how we will tackle this problem of loading the product. Because the standard way of loading things from a MySQL table is to load everything at once. You can't just load everything at once, so you have to load in smaller pieces. And that is exactly what we will be doing. We will load 8 products or you could also load more, but I will be loading 8 products once the website loads. So when we hit this button and refresh, then we want to load 8 products. Then this will probably cover about the whole page. And if we scroll down and hit the bottom of the page, we want to load, for example, 4 more products or even 8 more products. So by that we minimize loading times when we initially load the website, and we kind of relieve the database. So how will we be doing that? Well, we will create a separate script that will handle the loading, and the main page, so this page, will just tell that script to start loading and how many. And we will be doing that with Ajax. If you never heard Ajax, that's okay. It's basically just JavaScript, and I will show you how to do it as well. So let's go ahead and implement the Ajax. So the code that will tell another script later on to load products. So of course this whole thing will be a JavaScript block, and we will put that right below the header right here. And this is just basic HTML in here, and now we can write JavaScript. Of course you have to make sure that you have Ajax or jQuery imported up here. And, there are many links in the internet on how to do that. Also I have the head up here. Yeah, no I don't. Okay, perfect. So I have a script tag right here where we import jQuery. So now we can use Ajax, and we do that with this $, and then we can write whatever we want. So in my case, I want to focus on the document. I am completely in the wrong spot, I'm so sorry. We want to write it in here, the $, and then we can write in brackets document, and then we can call functions from that. So there's a function called ready, and in there we can pass another function. So when the document loads, this function is being called, and then we can go on and call another function and do some stuff. And I mean, that's exactly what we want to do, because we want to load some stuff once the page loads. So let's do that, right? For that we have to do a function, and then we'll have a brackets, and everything is perfectly set up. And in here we can once again do another Ajax, and now we actually write Ajax. Before it was just jQuery. Type Ajax, we can open some brackets, and now we have to open curly brackets. I hate JavaScript. And in here we can pass a so-called Ajax request, and this is just the part where we tell another script to load products, and how many products as well. So this is kind of like JSON, I think, or YAML, or any other information storing format. And well, we have to specify what type of request, so either a post or a GET request, but we want to get data, so we type GET. We have to specify a URL, and this URL we will create later. But we will have another script inside of this includes folder. We will have another script called loadproducts.inc.php. So to get there, we have to go one directory up, and we do that by /. So now we are in the root, and now we can say we want to go into the includes folder, and then we want to specify the load products.inc.php. This will be the script that handles the actual loading. Then we also have to pass some data, because we have to specify what data we want to load and how many products. And we do that by saying again, we have our a data element, I just don't know how to call them, called offset, and we want to, of course, when we initially load, we want to load with a offset of 0. That's hopefully it's clear. And the limit on how many we want to load, it should be 8. So that's how many we want to load. And that's actually it for now. And now it's getting interesting, because now the part where we said we have this products tag down here, we have to somehow append what we get from this script. So now for that we will make use of the success parameter down here, and we can then again pass another function. So this function will take some data, and we will just append that data to the product. And the jQuery syntax for that is $, not a dot, but just like that, and then single quotes, and then the name of the tag, just like that, and we can type .append. And what do we want to append? We of course want to append the data we retrieved, and then we type a semicolon. So now, before we do the part when we hit the bottom of the page, I first want to actually do the loading script, and also don't forget to add a semicolon right here. And that's actually it. Let's actually write that script I mentioned up here, so that we can see if this part works. So go to includes, new, PHP file, and name it load products.php. And now we first have to check if we actually, this is of course also for security reasons, but we have to check if we actually got some parameters like offset and limit. So we can check that by typing if is set, and then we somehow have to get those parameters, right? And if you remember, we have a GET request, and in PHP we get those variables by typing $_get, and then in brackets, parentheses, the name of that. God, like that. And of course we will also want to check if the offset variable is also set. So again, type get, square brackets, parentheses, name of the variable offset, and then we can continue that if. Now once we're in here, we can be relatively sure that we are intentionally in here. So we can type require dbh.php, and that just means that we kind of import our database connection. Then I also, just to make it easier, I want to create a limit variable, and this will be just easy to the get variable of limit. And you guessed it, the same thing for offset. I don't know what it is that I always do the other sign instead of the $. And then we can actually go ahead and create the so-called SQL query. We will need an SQL variable. This will be equal to the query we want. So in our case, this will be select. And we want to select the ID, the Gumroad ID, the name, the price, the description, and the image link from the products table. And we just have to pass this limit and offset. This is just, you can imagine kind of like we select a specific part of the limit specifies the range of products we select, and the offset where we select it. I think that's basically how I would name it, and we can just pass this into here. But we don't want to just instantly pass limit and offset into there, because theoretically you could externally, when you load the page, you could customize those parameters. So you could try something that is called SQL Injection, and of course that's really bad because then hackers would have access to your SQL database. So what we do is we create a placeholder with this question mark. Limit is equal to question mark and offset is also equal to question mark. Pass a semicolon into there, and now we can actually create that statement variable. And this will be equal to $con, and remember we got this from the statement up here, require dbh-inc.php, because we had this in the, we created this con variable earlier. And we can pass into there prepare, and then we just say what do we want to prepare. We of course want to prepare our SQL query. Then we also have to insert our variables limit and offset, and we want to do bind param, and we just have two integers, and so we can type II, so two integers, and comma, we want to do limit and offset. I just had a little stroke. That's okay, so we can pass a semicolon then. Now we can type statement execute. So we actually, well, yeah, we execute that statement, and now we just have to somehow retrieve that data. We will do that by creating a new result variable, and we then store that result in this variable, and we will use another method called mysqli underscore get results. I'm so sorry, and then we pass in our statement variable. Now I have to create a little count variable, and don't be confused, we will need that later to iterate through the results. And now we can do another if, and if the length of our result variable is bigger than or larger than 0, then of course we got something from the database, so now we can iterate through that. And we do that in a while loop, and then we have to create another variable, and this may get a bit confusing. We will have another variable with an s, so results instead of result. I will set it equal to array shift from result, and then we can do something to the data we got. So we can now access all the, reiterate through each row, and from that we can access each column. Yeah, that's the correct term. We can also, well, we have to up the count each time we come here. We have to do that to do some sneaky little stuff with line breaks. So now we somehow have to get our products in here. And I did that this way. I will now copy some stuff in here. This is a product card. We echo out our product card. And of course, Jonathan, I have linked him in the description because he did a great job of styling everything. And how we access the information we want to insert into each product card, we just type $results, so the variable form up here, and as an array index, we just type Gumroad ID or whatever we want, and those names correspond to the columns in the database. And so by that we type in results name and so on. The little if statement down here, that's where we need the count variable. After four products, we want to add a line break, so we just have 4 products in a row. You could also change that to 8 if you have smaller cards, so then you have 8 in a row. I will show you that later, how that would look. So in here we can actually add a else, not an echo but an else, and basically we could do something here, but I just won't. but basically if we hit that point, there are just simply no products available. So if there could be the case, if you want to handle it somehow that there could be no products available, you could, for example, display something. But I will not do that in my case, because I will always have some products. I don't know a reason why there shouldn't be any products. Except the database error, but we already handled that in the DBH. So after we have gotten our products, we shouldn't forget to close our connection and our statement. And we can just do that with this close. Down here, from the if is set get limit and stuff, we just can actually go ahead and send the user back to the main page. And we do that by say header location with a colon and then // and then we just say index.php. This is the main page, so this one. And I just do that so people have a harder time tampering with the website. And theoretically, if I or we have not done anything wrong, we should be able to now test out the website. So let's do that, right? We just refresh the website, and we already got a warning. And there is no such file or directory. That's interesting. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so I found two mistakes. First of all, apparently in your versions of MySQL, or apparently just generally, it doesn't like it when you type localhost, use 1.172.0.0.1. Another mistake I did was I used MySQL statement getResult, and apparently that's not the correct method. Anyways, I found a function on Stack Overflow that is much better than the default one. So I just copied that code, and I will try to get the source where I found it. I'm not sure because it's kind of long ago, but I will try to find the source and the author of that piece of code. But this will get us the result of a statement, so we can just get result from statement. So that's our own little function right here, and this should now be working. So let's hope, cross our fingers, and of course nothing is being seen, and that's okay, because we haven't even added any product. So let's go ahead and add one, shall we? I mean, at least we don't have any errors, so that's nice. We can do that by going into products, double clicking on it, and we can have a little plus up here. And now ID is generated, that's of course, and we can just double click into a cell, and then we can type our Gumroad ID. I'm just gonna go to Gumroad and search out one ID. So let's go to Jonathan's, and I will choose this one because it has a nice interface right here, and we can go ahead and click on this. So now we have the image. We will get this address later on through web scraping. For now we just have to manually get an image. You can really add any image, but I just want to get a nice product. So image link will be this. The product ID will be this. And don't worry, I will explain that later on. You don't have to understand that right here or do it. You don't even have to do it, right? I just want to show you how this would be looking. The price, $5 plus. So we'll just type 5. The description, we can actually just copy as well. We will get everything through web scraping later on. That will be really nice. And don't forget to hit that save button now once you have entered something. I was really confused in the beginning as well, maybe, because nothing really showed up later on. But now if we refresh the page, we should be seeing one nice card right here. If you followed me and it's not looking like this, don't worry. I just hope that you have something that somewhere on the page the $5 or whatever you took as a price, the description, whatever showed up. And you should also be clicking on it, and in my case it even opens. Why is that? Well, it's because we're using an API called the Gumroad overlay. we have mentioned this in the head of the head.php file, and we implement that in every PHP file really. So this just goes to the Gumroad server and gets the gumroad.js file. It's just exactly like with the jQuery up here. And this just makes us able to use the Gumroad overlay, and we can use specific classes and IDs to create those frames really. So basically this button, we have this card is just a big button, and it has a link, and this link is just a link to the product. Give me a second, right here. This is just the link to the product, and of course this is just plain HTML, but everything else is being done by Gumroad itself, so that's really nice. And even cooler is, once we click on this product, this thing opens, and if we click on I want this, you can type a price in here, click on I want this, and it even opens all the payment stuff and anything else. Once you have multiple products in here, you can even click on add to cart, and it will open a cart and have a little card up there. So that's so cool. And this is it for today's video. It's already 40 minutes long, or somehow something around that. Depends on how much I cut. But in the next video we will create the loading when we scroll to the bottom. So I hope you had fun, I know I did, and if you have any questions, just go ahead and ask them down below in the comments, and we will try to answer them. So till then, see you next time.